Hey, what's up YouTube? Enforcer5150 here, and before I get into this video, I just wanted to mention that hopefully by Monday we will see the RTX 2080 come out. I mean, there's been rumors and leaks and everything else that's been going on for a while, and I am somewhat prepared to make sure I actually get one of the new cards when they come out. If it follows the pattern of, say, the 980 and the 1080 on their release dates, we should be all right. I should have enough money to go ahead and get one of those, and then I will definitely start doing reviews on them right away and benchmarks. I'm going to be starting out with CSGO, Monster Hunter World, Final Fantasy, and all that. Some of the speculations is that it's going to be coming out on August 30th. So if it does wait until then, you know, that's good. But if it comes out right away after Monday, that's even better. But either way, I'm going to try to make sure that I have the money saved up so that we can actually go ahead and get one of them cards. But that's not what this video is about. This video is going to be about the DELL G5 15 and running a 1060 6GB graphics RAM in it. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it and see how this thing stacks up and is it playable. So the first settings we're going to do is 1080p, and we're going to leave everything at its highest settings. Now, one thing I want to mention about this is that you're going to, get a lot less frames per second when you are in really dense areas, such as being inside the main city or inside a place like here. I wanted to keep everything kind of consistent, so I went ahead and went to a Wildspire Waste again, just because that's where I did my last video. I wanted everything to kind of be even up with that. So this is this part where when I was running on the 1080 Ti, everything maxed. We had maybe about the same frames per second in 4K. We had about 40, sometimes 45 frames per second, and we dipped under 30 frames per second, which was, kind of devastating. Overall, I did stay above 40 frames per second. I know that's not at the 60 frames per second that we normally would want to stick at. And keep in mind that this is definitely a game that is very playable over 40-45 frames per second. And, that's kind of what you get on the PlayStation Pro as well. So like in first-person shooters and stuff like that, you definitely want to get over to 60 frames per second. But games that are like this, or you can use a controller, or, you're kind of doing third-person type things that's not, every millisecond is crucial to your survival, you can still have a decent gameplay and experience. It's really not unplayable at the 40 to 50 frames per second range. If you really want to get the game designers and artists' vision of the game, definitely play it at this, and you'll see how you like it, because I really think it is definitely playable. And if you're wondering how my fight actually went with that Diablo, I don't want to talk about it. So I'll go ahead and brought down the settings to medium just to see, how much more we could get. I wanted to go at high, but I really don't think that there's much of a difference between the high and the medium settings that, really justify me actually putting it in the video. I'll just say at medium, it's a little bit better, but high, you're really still getting the same frames per second that you kind of were with the highest. There's only a few settings that go lower. So at the medium settings, I really think that this is kind of the sweet spot for the 1060. You get over the 60 frames per second. You do drop under that 60 a few times, and I think the lowest it went to was around 45 frames per second, but that was, during a fight. There's a lot of debris and stuff all over the place. So, and it's, during the fight too, where, there's a lot of stuff that's going on during the fights in Monster Hunter World. And it's very playable, like I said before, but, you're at least getting over, in the 50s range, and you're getting into around the 60 range. So, it's definitely, like I said, it's playable, and you get some of the higher frames per second. But it really didn't affect my gameplay that much. I still enjoyed it. I played at this setting for a good half hour, 45 minutes. So we're just going to keep on moving along here at 1080p one more time. I did go ahead and try the optimized settings that I actually did in my last video for the 1080 Ti that I found at Digital Foundry. The only change I did on this one was I kept the texture quality at 1024 instead of full. I feel like you get a little bit more frames and there's not a lot of difference in the actual quality that you're getting. So we went ahead and tried this setting, and the results were pretty good. We didn't stay over the 60 frames per second, but we did keep intact a lot of the graphics from the highest, and we're not sitting at 40 frames per second. We were able to get over 60 in a lot of instances. I think we maxed out maybe about 70. I didn't run benchmarks on it, sorry about that, but really we had a good stable frame rate, taking out the fact that this game doesn't keep you at a stable frame rate, and there's a lot of drops out of nowhere. The main spots that we see having the lowest frames is in the brush areas. That's why I like using this map kind of as a base, because it has this area where there's a lot of foliage, which is very close to like the forest and everything else. Some of the other maps, it's not so bad when you're in some of the worlds like the coral world. Coral words are hard. In the coral world, it's just mostly bland textures with a lot of lighting, so you get more frames in those areas. But in the forest or spots like this, your frames are a lot lower. So we had a lot of the same results during fights that we started getting down to the mid to low 50s, and whenever there was a lot going on, and in more condensed areas. I think I got down to 51 was the lowest that I actually got to. But as I was saying, the game is very playable at that, and everything looks really good this way. Now for the final 1080p, I brought everything down to low. If you're someone that just absolutely must have that 60 frames per second, and looking at anything lower, it just drives you nuts, then going down to low is your best option at 1080p. I personally don't like it. The graphics just seem, too gaudy, and everything. The world just seems a lot more plain when you're running it at, the lowest graphic settings. I mean, it's not terrible, but if you wanted to stay over that 60 frames per second, you definitely are going to want to go ahead and bring them down to this. I pretty much didn't play at this resolution in graphic setting for too long. The main thing that I do not like about the lowest settings is the shadows of the clouds. They were so distracting that it made it unplayable to me. It was annoying. If you can see the the shadows of the clouds and everything are just constantly just running around, and it just makes it look terrible, in my opinion. So if you're one that really needs to get it to over 60, you maybe try adding some shadows in there, and then maybe you'll still stay under there, but I couldn't do it, sorry. Alright, so let's just go ahead to 720p. That's the last setting that I actually wanted to try and show you about. Ah yes, 720p, the first generation of high definition. We definitely had to try and see what we could get from it. I left everything at high and fullest for the 720p test. The 720p, the frames were pretty consistent with the optimized to medium and medium settings that we ran at 1080p. Now, one thing you have to remember is that this is a 15-inch screen. So running at 720p, it's not going to be that terrible looking. You can definitely, notice that there's a bit of a difference there, but all in all, when you have the graphics all the way up and you're sitting back a little bit, it's not too bad. So you do drop below that 60 in the big fights and stuff like that, but you have to remember that this game isn't fully optimized yet. And seeing that this is at the highest settings, have the full graphics of everything that's on there, you have the volumetric lighting and everything that you would normally miss if you brought your settings down to medium or took a lot of the stuff off in the optimized settings. So it's definitely playable. 15-inch screen, you're not really going to notice that much of a difference from the 1080p. Unless you're really just up on your nose is on the keyboard watching it. It's the way you're gonna really notice it. Now there's one thing I do have to mention about this laptop. One, if you plug in the HDMI to a TV, you lose about 5 to 7 frames per second. And to me, I really didn't want to do that, so I'm usually better off just running from my main 1080 Ti and running in 4K. If you try to run it in 4K, it basically wants to crap itself at like 20 frames per second. So I definitely don't suggest doing that if you want to keep some frames. But you have to remember, this is a laptop, and it is kind of the bottom of the barrel of gaming laptops. You know, if you really want to get those high ones, you have to get with a 1070 or 1080, which is going to cost you around, you know, $1,500 to $2,000 or more to get, you know, way high performance out of a laptop. Now, if you're just basically have your laptop with you and like you're going on a road trip or something like that, this is a great laptop to sit there and game on. Like if you're in a hotel room stuck over the weekend for work or something like that, and you just, you know, you can't really just bring your main computer along, or you don't want to haul, you know, a gaming console with you and you're just going on PC, definitely this is the way to go. I mean, it's under $1,000. It's probably one of the best under $1,000. I myself will probably be returning it this weekend, but it has nothing to do with its gaming capacity. My main problem with this laptop is the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. To put it short, it's just basically there's a software that makes it actually control your network speed at the 5 gigahertz, but not at the 2.4 gigahertz. Anyway, this video is definitely way too long. Let me know what you think of this laptop. Is it worth the $949 price tag, or would you just rather be going down to, say, a 1050 or 1050 Ti? Anyway, I want to thank you for watching. Take care and happy gaming.